Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the observation deck of Olympus 7, watching the massive alien ships materialize in Earth's orbit. He had been a soldier for 20 years, but nothing in his experience prepared him for this moment. The vessels were enormous, each one the size of a small city, their dark hulls covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move in the starlight. Dr. Lisa Freeman joined him at the window, her tablet clutched tightly in her hands. She was Earth's leading expert on alien life, though until 3 hours ago that expertise had been purely theoretical. Now 7 different species were gathered outside their station, and none of them looked friendly. "They're requesting permission to dock," Lisa said quietly. "The translation software is working, but their tone is not exactly diplomatic." Ryan nodded and gave the order. Whatever was about to happen, running would not help. Earth had only 15 years of faster-than-light technology. These beings had clearly been traveling the stars for much longer. The alien delegation entered the station's main conference room like conquerors inspecting new territory. The leader was a towering creature named Vexnor, standing nearly 8 feet tall with dark blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes were cold and calculating as he surveyed the humans gathered to meet him. "I am Warlord Vexnor of the Calthrine Empire, speaking for the Galactic Consortium," he announced. His voice was deep and carried an unmistakable tone of superiority. "We have come to discuss Earth's future." Admiral Jack Porter stepped forward. He was Earth's highest-ranking military officer, a man who had fought in 3 wars and never backed down from anyone. "Welcome to our system. We're ready to discuss peaceful relations with your consortium." Vexnor made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peaceful relations? No, human. You misunderstand your position. The consortium does not negotiate with children. We have maintained order in this sector for 10,000 of your years. When a new species emerges and begins stumbling through space, we guide them, or we remove them." Senator Claire Davis, who led Earth's Interstellar Relations Committee, tried to maintain her composure. "Surely there's room for dialogue. Humanity has much to offer the galactic community." Another alien stepped forward, this one resembling a floating jellyfish with dozens of tentacles. "Offer? What could you possibly offer? You have been in space for barely a moment. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of the universe is limited. You are infants playing with dangerous toys." Vexnor activated a holographic display that filled the center of the room. Images appeared showing dozens of different worlds and species. "In our recorded history, 47 species have reached the point you have now reached. 47 times we have given the same choice we now give you. Submit to consortium authority, dismantle your military capabilities and accept our guidance, or refuse and face correction." "Correction?" Ryan asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Destruction," Vexnor said simply. "Complete and absolute. Your species will be removed and your world will be given to those who can use it properly." The room fell silent. Lisa felt her heart racing. They had always wondered if humanity was alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was worse than anyone had imagined. Admiral Porter's jaw tightened. "And if we choose to remain independent? To defend ourselves?" Vexnor's laugh was genuine this time. "Defend? Against the consortium? 47 species chose that path. 47 species no longer exist. Some were more advanced than you. Some had centuries more experience in space. All of them learned the same lesson." He manipulated the holographic display showing massive battles in burning worlds. The Zerathi had weapons that could crack moons. The Vilnari had shields that could withstand a supernova. The Korthal had a fleet of 10,000 warships. Where are they now? Gone. Erased. Forgotten by all but the consortium's historical records. Senator Davis tried again. "There must be another way. We're reasonable people. We can find common ground." A bird-like alien spoke up, its voice harsh and clicking. "Your planet is barely habitable anyway. We have studied your world. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is corrosive. The weather is violent and unpredictable. You live on a death world and call it home. This speaks to your primitive nature. Earth is a trap," another alien added. "A natural prison that has made you aggressive and short-lived. Proper species evolve on gentle worlds. You are accidents of evolution, nothing more." Vexnor deactivated the display. "The consortium has made its position clear. You have 30 standard days to dismantle your military forces, destroy your weapons, and submit to our authority. If you comply, you will be allowed to exist under consortium supervision. Your people will be educated in proper civilization. Your world will be reformed to meet galactic standards. And if we refuse? Admiral Porter asked, his voice steady despite the circumstances. Then we will demonstrate why no species has ever successfully defied the consortium, Vexnor replied. 300 warships will arrive in your system. They will reduce your military installations to dust. They will destroy your cities. They will render your world uninhabitable, and then we will leave and the galaxy will forget you ever existed. Ryan watched the alien delegation carefully. Their body language, different as it was, conveyed absolute certainty. They believed every word they were saying. They had done this before many times, and they had always won. After the aliens returned to their ships, the human delegation gathered in Admiral Porter's office. The mood was grim. Can we fight them? Senator Davis asked. Realistically, Admiral Porter pulled up Earth's military assessment. Our entire fleet consists of 42 ships. They're bringing 300, and each of theirs is more advanced than anything we have. In a straight fight, we'd last maybe 6 hours. Lisa was studying the data the aliens had provided. There's something strange here. They keep mentioning how hostile Earth is. They called it a trap in a death world, but to us it's just home. Ryan leaned forward. What are you thinking? I'm thinking they see our world very differently than we do, Lisa said slowly. They come from gentler places. Lighter gravity, calmer weather, more stable environments. What if Earth's conditions are actually advantages for us? Admiral Porter considered this. 30 days is not much time. Then we better use every second, Ryan said. If they want to call Earth a trap, maybe we should prove them right. Senator Davis looked at each of them. Are we really going to fight? Against those odds? Admiral Porter stood up straight, his decision made. 47 species submitted or died. I say we try for option 3. We fight and we win. Because if humanity has proven anything in our history, it's that we don't know when to quit. The message was sent to the consortium the next day. Earth's answer was simple and clear. No submission. No surrender. If the consortium wanted Earth, they would have to take it and humanity would make them pay for every inch. Vexnor received the message aboard his flagship. He read it once, then deleted it from the records. In 30 days, Earth would burn, and its defiance would be forgotten like all the others. He had no doubt about this. He had never lost a campaign, and he would not start with these primitives. The countdown began. Both sides prepared for war. Colonel Danny Hayes stood in the war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, staring at maps of Earth that showed every defensive position, every military base, every strategic resource. Around him, the greatest military minds of humanity were gathering for the most important meeting in human history. We can't win a space battle, he said bluntly. Their ships are faster, stronger, and more numerous. So we don't fight them in space. We make them come down here to our world, where we have every advantage. Dr. Marcus Webb, Chief of Advanced Weapons Development, nodded in agreement. He was a thin man with tired eyes who had not slept properly in 3 days. I've been reviewing the data from the consortium meeting. They're physically weaker than us. Most of them evolved on low-gravity worlds. Earth's gravity would feel like carrying an extra 100 pounds all the time. Lieutenant Amy Chen, one of Earth's best fighter pilots, pulled up weather data on the main screen. And they called our weather violent. I've been looking at their homeworld specifications. Most of them have calm, predictable climates. They've never dealt with hurricanes, blizzards, or monsoons. Admiral Porter entered the room and everyone stood to attention. At ease, we don't have time for formality. Colonel Hayes, you said you had a plan. Danny activated a holographic display of Earth. Operation Homeground. We let them think we're scared. We transmit messages about evacuation plans and defensive retreats. We act like we're panicking. Meanwhile, we prepare the real trap. Go on, Admiral Porter said. First, we weaponize our environment, Danny continued. Dr. Webb's team has developed gravity well disruptors. They create localized gravity fluctuations. Won't bother us much because we're already adapted to 1G, but it'll devastate troops used to lighter gravity. Marcus added, we also have electromagnetic pulse networks that can be activated regionally. Their technology is more advanced, which means it's more dependent on complex systems. Our equipment is simpler, more robust. We can fight through interference they can't. Amy brought up tactical simulations. For air support, we've designed atmospheric combat drones specifically for Earth conditions. They can operate in storms, through thick clouds, even in volcanic ash. The aliens' sensors are designed for clear conditions. We're going to make sure they never get clear conditions. Senator Davis, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. This sounds like you're planning to actually let them land. That's insane. It's the only way, Danny replied. In orbit, they win. On our ground, following our rules, we have a chance. A small chance, but it's better than none. Admiral Porter studied the plans carefully. You're talking about turning our own planet into a weapon. Exactly, Marcus said. Earth shaped us, made us tough, made us adaptable. Now we use that. We fight in places they can't even imagine fighting. Underwater bases, volcanic regions, the middle of hurricanes, places where their technology fails and ours works. Over the next week, the plan took shape. Military forces moved to new positions, but they made sure to do it obviously, as if they were retreating. They transmitted messages in codes they knew the consortium could break, talking about evacuation procedures and falling back to defensive lines. The consortium was watching. Prime Counselor Jarex, coordinator of the invasion fleet, reviewed the intercepted communications with satisfaction. The humans are breaking already. They're pulling back, evacuating civilians, preparing to surrender. His tactical officer studied the data. Some of their movements don't make sense, Counselor. They're positioning forces in unusual locations, coastal areas, volcanic zones, regions with extreme weather. Jarex waved a dismissive appendage. They're primitives trying to hide their most valuable equipment in remote areas. It won't matter. Once we establish orbital dominance, we'll hunt them down wherever they hide. Back on Earth, the preparation continued in secret. Lieutenant Amy Chen led her fighter squadron through training exercises that would have seemed suicidal to the consortium. They flew through thunderstorms, practiced combat maneuvers in zero visibility, and learned to navigate using techniques that didn't depend on satellite guidance. The aliens rely on their sensors, she told her pilots. We're going to fight them in conditions where sensors don't work. That means we need to be better than good. We need to be perfect. Dr. Helen Brooks, an environmental scientist, coordinated with military command to weaponize weather patterns. We can't control the weather, she explained, but we can enhance it. Seed the clouds, trigger storm systems, create electromagnetic interference, make Earth as hostile as the aliens already think it is. Colonel Danny Hayes worked with civilian defense coordinators on the most audacious part of the plan. What the consortium thought were evacuation centers were actually staging grounds. Millions of volunteers were being armed and trained in secret. They think we're weak because we're young, Danny told a group of civilian leaders. They think we'll break easily. They're about to learn that humanity's greatest strength is that we never know when to quit. In orbit, the consortium fleet was arriving in waves. 300 warships gathered around Earth, a show of force designed to terrify humanity into immediate surrender. The alien commanders were confident this would be over quickly. Vexenor himself came to oversee the final preparations. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue and white planet below. Such a hostile world, he muttered. I'll almost feel relief when we reduce it to ash. His second-in-command, a warrior named Kravas, asked, should we give them one more chance to surrender? No, Vexenor replied. They made their choice. Now they'll face the consequences. Prepare the invasion force. 80,000 troops will land at 5 strategic locations. Once we control their major cities, the rest will surrender quickly. The landing zones were selected: New York, Beijing, Mumbai, Lagos, and São Paulo. Major population centers that would break humanity's spirit when they fell. The consortium had used this strategy 47 times before. It always worked. But what the consortium didn't know was that humanity had chosen those same locations for very specific reasons. New York for its complex urban terrain, Beijing for its proximity to manufacturing centers, Mumbai for its monsoon season, Lagos for its equatorial heat and humidity, São Paulo for its dense jungles nearby. Admiral Porter gathered his command staff for the final briefing. They think we're going to fight like the other species they conquered. Stand in neat lines, use tactics from textbooks, follow the rules of civilized warfare. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to fight dirty, Danny added. Use every advantage we have. Hide in places they can't follow. Strike from directions they don't expect. Make them scared of every shadow, every sound, every moment they're on our world. Marcus activated displays showing the hidden weapon systems. The gravity disruptors are in place. The EMP networks are ready. Our forces are positioned. Now we just need them to commit. Lisa Freeman, who had been consulting on alien psychology, offered one final insight. Their biggest weakness is pride. They've won so many times that they can't imagine losing. They'll take risks because they don't believe we're a real threat. We need to use that. The consortium sent their final ultimatum. Surrender now or face destruction. Admiral Porter's response was broadcast across all channels loud and clear. Come and take it. On the consortium flagship, Vexnor smiled. The humans were going to make this entertaining at least. He gave the order and 80,000 alien troops began their descent to Earth's surface. The trap was set. The jaws were about to close, and the consortium, in all their pride and certainty, marched straight into the flames. The consortium dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. 80,000 alien soldiers, the finest warriors from 7 different species, prepared for what they believed would be an easy victory. They had done this before. They knew how it would end. Commander Jake Sullivan watched from the Orbital Defense Network's command center as the enemy ships broke through the clouds. All units hold position. Let them land. Let them commit. In Mumbai, General Linda Carter stood with her troops in a reinforced bunker 2 miles from the designated landing zone. Rain was already starting to fall, the beginning of the monsoon season. She checked her weapon one last time and spoke into her communication device. Remember, they've never fought in rain like this. Use it, the water will blind their sensors. Stay low, stay mobile, and make them pay for every step. The first consortium troops touched down in New York City. They emerged from their dropships expecting immediate combat, but the streets were empty. No defenders, no resistance, just an eerie silence broken only by the wind between the buildings. Squad leader Vexkan, a Calthrene warrior, felt something wrong immediately. The gravity was crushing. Every movement required twice the effort he was used to. His troops were already showing signs of strain, and they had been on the ground for less than 2 minutes. "Command, this is Ground Team Alpha," he reported. "The gravity is more severe than projections indicated. Request authorization to use enhancement gear." Before he received an answer, the streets erupted with gunfire. Humans emerged from buildings, from underground passages, from rooftops. They moved fast, impossibly fast for such a high-gravity world. Because to them it was not high gravity, it was just normal. The battle for New York began in earnest. The consortium troops tried to form defensive positions, but the humans refused to fight conventionally. They struck and disappeared, used the urban terrain like they were born to it, turned every building into a fortress and every alley into an ambush point. In Beijing, the situation was similar. Consortium forces landed and immediately found themselves under attack from multiple directions. The Chinese forces had spent weeks preparing the battleground, creating kill zones and escape routes, learning every inch of terrain. But it was in Mumbai where the consortium learned their first terrible lesson about Earth. The monsoon rains arrived in full force, a wall of water falling from the sky with such intensity that visibility dropped to nearly zero. The alien sensors designed for clear conditions became almost useless. General Carter's forces attacked through the storm. They had trained for this, practiced fighting in conditions that would stop most armies. Their weapons were sealed against water. Their communications used frequencies that penetrated the rain. They moved through the deluge like sharks through an ocean. Lieutenant Amy Chen's fighter squadron screamed through the storm clouds, hitting consortium aircraft that could barely maintain altitude in the turbulence. The aliens had air superiority in theory, but in practice, they could not operate effectively in weather that would ground most advanced aircraft. "This is Falcon Leader," Amy called out as she lined up another target. "These conditions are perfect for us. Keep the pressure on." Her wingman sent back a confirmation. They dove through a cloud bank, rain hammering their canopies, and emerged behind a consortium gunship. 2 missiles direct hit, and the alien ship spiraled into the sea. On the ground in Mumbai, consortium squad commander Telvek struggled to maintain order. Half his troops were suffering from the gravity. The rain had soaked through their equipment. The humans seemed to appear from nowhere, strike hard, and vanish before his forces could respond. "This is not right," he transmitted to his superiors. The intelligence was wrong. These humans are not primitive. They fight like demons in conditions that should be impossible. Commander Jake Sullivan chose that moment to activate the gravity well disruptors. Across all 5 landing zones simultaneously, the gravity fields fluctuated. For humans already adapted to 1G, it was uncomfortable but manageable. For the consortium troops already struggling with Earth's natural gravity, It was devastating. Soldiers collapsed under their own weight. Equipment that had been merely heavy became impossible to move. Formations broke apart as aliens found themselves unable to stand, let alone fight. In Lagos, the equatorial heat combined with high humidity created conditions that were merely unpleasant for humans, but potentially lethal for species evolved in cooler climates. Consortium troops began suffering from heat exhaustion within hours. Their cooling systems, adequate for normal conditions, could not handle Earth's tropical zones. In São Paulo, human forces led consortium troops into the nearby jungle. The aliens followed, confident in their superior technology and firepower. They did not know that humanity had been fighting in jungles for thousands of years. The dense vegetation blocked their sensors. The heat and humidity degraded their equipment. Local wildlife, frightened by the invaders, created chaos. Brazilian special forces turned the jungle into a nightmare. They used the terrain like an old friend, setting traps, creating ambush points, disappearing into the green shadows. The consortium troops, bred on civilized worlds with manicured environments, had never experienced anything like it. Commander Cravas, leading the consortium's largest force in New York, finally admitted the truth to himself. They were losing, not just struggling, but actually losing ground to species they had dismissed as primitive children. All forces, fall back to the landing zones, he ordered. We need to regroup and reassess. But falling back was easier said than done. The humans had predicted this move and prepared accordingly. The consortium retreat became a rout. Units that tried to pull back found their escape routes blocked. Ambushes waited at every corner. The disciplined withdrawal became a desperate flight. In Mumbai, General Carter watched the alien forces break. 60% casualties, she estimated. Maybe more. They had come expecting an easy victory, and instead walked into a meat grinder. Dr. Marcus Webb activated the final phase of the ground defense. EMP pulses rippled across the battlefield, frying sophisticated alien electronics while leaving the simpler, more robust human equipment functioning. The technological advantage the consortium relied on evaporated in seconds. High above the battle, Admiral Porter received the reports from all 5 landing zones. The ground invasion was collapsing. The consortium had committed 80,000 troops. Less than 30,000 were still combat effective, and those were in full retreat. Send the message to the consortium fleet, he ordered. Tell them their ground forces are defeated. If they want to save any of them, they need to evacuate now. On the consortium flagship, Warlord Vexnor received the casualty reports with disbelief. It was impossible. These were his finest soldiers, fighting primitives with barely any space experience. How could they be losing? Begin orbital bombardment, he snarled. If we cannot take the planet, we will deny it to them. The consortium warships opened fire from orbit. Beams of energy struck Earth's surface, destroying military installations and civilian targets alike. This was what they did to species that refused to submit. This was how they maintained their empire. Commander Jake Sullivan aboard Olympus 7 watched the bombardment begin. His station was old, damaged from previous engagements, barely holding together. But it still had engines, and it still had one last role to play. All hands, this is the commander, he announced across the station. Evacuate to the escape pods. You have 5 minutes. His crew looked at him with understanding. They knew what he was planning. Sir, his second-in-command protested. You can't. I can and I will. Jake cut him off. Get everyone off this station. That's an order. As the escape pods launched, Jake Sullivan set a collision course for the consortium flagship. The station's engines, pushed far beyond their rated capacity, accelerated the massive structure toward the alien warship. Vexnor saw it coming too late. He ordered evasive maneuvers, but Olympus 7 was already too close, moving too fast. The station impacted the flagship's port side with tremendous force, tearing through shields and armor, ripping into the heart of the warship. The flagship began breaking apart. Vexnor, in his final moments, finally understood. These humans would never surrender. They would fight with anything they had, sacrifice everything they possessed, and they would make their enemies pay in blood for every victory. The explosion of the flagship created chaos in the consortium formation. Other warships scattered, their tight attack pattern broken. Human defense satellites, which had been hiding quietly, activated and struck at the confused alien fleet. General Carter stood in the ruins of Mumbai, watching fires burn across the city. They had won the ground battle, but the cost had been terrible. Thousands of soldiers dead, civilians caught in the crossfire, parts of the city reduced to rubble, but they had won. The consortium ground forces were destroyed or captured. The orbital fleet was in disarray. Humanity had done what 47 other species had failed to do. They had made the invaders bleed. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The consortium, undefeated in 3,000 years, had been bloodied by a species barely old enough to leave their own solar system. Ships carrying trade goods and information jumped between star systems, and every jump carried the same impossible story. Earth had won. President Nathan Scott sat in his office reviewing reports from across the planet. The victory had been costly. 6 major cities damaged, 30,000 soldiers dead, hundreds of thousands of civilians caught in the fighting. But humanity still stood, and the consortium fleet was limping away to lick its wounds. "Mr. President," his aide announced, "we're receiving communications from multiple sources. 3 neutral species want to open diplomatic channels, and we're getting messages from consortium-controlled worlds. Encrypted messages." Nathan looked up. "What kind of messages?" "Resistance movements, sir. They want to know how we did it. They want to know if it's possible to fight back. On a mining world called Veltar, workers had been enslaved by the consortium for 6 generations. They labored in toxic conditions, extracting rare minerals for their masters. When news of Earth's victory arrived, something changed. The overseers noticed it immediately. The slaves were no longer looking down at their feet. They were looking up at the stars. Commander Grace Palmer led a strike team through the frozen tunnels of Europa, Jupiter's ice moon. Intelligence had located a consortium supply base here, maintained by automated systems and a small garrison. It was time to prove that humans could fight anywhere, not just on Earth. "Remember, no gravity here," she reminded her team. "Use your training. Move fast, strike hard, get out clean." The attack came at shift change, when the alien garrison was most vulnerable. Human soldiers in advanced combat suits moved through the ice tunnels like ghosts. The consortium troops never knew what hit them. 20 minutes later, the base was secured, and Commander Palmer's team was loading captured technology onto their transport ship. "This is Palmer to command," she transmitted. "Europa base secured, bringing home presents." Ambassador Kyle Richardson sat in a secret meeting with representatives from 3 neutral species. The location was carefully chosen, a space station in neutral territory where the consortium's reach was limited. The aliens before him looked nervous, as well they should. Meeting with humanity could be considered treason. "You must understand our position," one of them said. His species resembled large insects, with multiple eyes that darted around constantly. "We have maintained neutrality for centuries. The consortium leaves us alone because we pose no threat." Kyle leaned forward. "And how has that worked out? The consortium keeps expanding. How long before they decide your worlds have resources they want? How long before neutrality stops being an option?" Another alien, this one crystalline and glowing faintly, spoke carefully. "What you did on Earth was remarkable, but the consortium has thousands of worlds, millions of ships. Eventually, they will return with enough force to overwhelm you." "Maybe," Kyle admitted. "Or maybe they'll find themselves fighting wars on a dozen fronts. Earth can't defeat the consortium alone. But Earth plus Veltar, plus the resistance movements on other worlds, plus neutral species who decide they're tired of being afraid, that's a different equation." He activated a holographic display showing tactical data from Earth's battles. "We're sharing this information freely. We want other species to know that the consortium can be beaten. Their soldiers are not invincible. Their technology has weaknesses. Their pride makes them predictable." The crystalline alien studied the data carefully. "You're trying to start a revolution." "No," Kyle corrected. "We're trying to finish one. The galaxy has been under the consortium's boot for too long. Earth just proved it's possible to stand up. Now others need to decide if they're going to keep kneeling." On the consortium homeworld, High Arbiter Zelkun faced a crisis unlike any in his long career. The council chamber was in chaos. Some members demanded immediate retaliation against Earth. Others suggested negotiation. A few even whispered about political consequences if more defeats followed. "Order!" Zelkun's voice cut through the noise. "We will have order in this chamber." The council settled, but the tension remained. Zelkun addressed them carefully. The defeat at Earth was unexpected. The humans fought with tactics we did not anticipate, but we must consider the broader implications. "Implications?" one council member snarled. "The implication is that we look weak. Already we have reports of unrest on 17 subjugated worlds. Resistance movements are becoming bolder. If we do not crush Earth completely, our empire will fracture." Another council member countered, "And if we commit more forces to Earth and lose again? Our military is powerful but not infinite. We have other borders to defend, other threats to monitor. Can we afford a prolonged war with a species that has proven they will fight to the last?" The argument continued for hours. Finally, Zelkun made a decision. "We will assemble a second fleet, twice the size of the first. We will bring overwhelming force. But we will also prepare for negotiation, should the humans show reason." It was a compromise that satisfied no one, but it was the best he could do. The consortium had ruled through fear and superiority for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt. Now they were learning, slowly and painfully. President Nathan Scott recorded a message that would be broadcast across every frequency humanity could reach, transmitted to every corner of the galaxy they could access. "People of the stars," he began. "Earth speaks to you today not as conquerors but as fellow travelers in this vast universe. For 10,000 years, the consortium has maintained order through force. They have told you that resistance is futile, that submission is the only path to survival. We stand here today as proof that they lied." He gestured to images of Earth's battle-scarred cities. "This is what resistance costs: lives lost, cities damaged, peace shattered. But this is also what resistance gains: freedom, dignity, the right to determine our own future. We will never kneel. We will never submit. We offer alliance to all free peoples and defiance to all tyrants." The message reached billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. Most dismissed it as the desperate bravado of a doomed species. But some listened. Some remembered what freedom felt like. Some began to plan. On Veltar, the mining slaves struck. They seized control of the extraction facilities and held them for 6 hours before consortium troops arrived. It was not a successful rebellion. It was crushed brutally. But it happened. For the first time in 6 generations, the slaves of Veltar had fought back. Dr. Marcus Webb completed work on humanity's most ambitious weapon yet. The Solar Lance was a massive array of satellites positioned around the sun, capable of focusing solar energy into a coherent beam. The power output was staggering, enough to cut through any known shield technology. "This is a defensive weapon," he explained to Admiral Porter. "We can't move it, can't use it offensively beyond our solar system. But if the consortium comes back, they'll find our home system has teeth." Admiral Porter nodded approvingly. "How long until it's operational?" 2 weeks, maybe 3. We're working as fast as we can." Intelligence reports confirmed what everyone expected. The consortium was assembling another fleet. 600 warships, this time pulled from defense posts across their empire. Every species under consortium control was being taxed to support the invasion force. But those same reports also contained encouraging news. The military buildup was straining the consortium's resources. The neutral species were watching carefully. And on 5 different subjugated worlds, resistance movements had made their presence known. General Linda Carter stood before a gathering of Earth's top officers. "They're coming back and they're bringing everything they have. We bloodied them, but we didn't break them. The next fight will be harder. Then we train harder," Colonel Danny Hayes replied. "We prepare better. We make them regret every decision that led them to our doorstep." Lisa Freeman had been analyzing the captured consortium soldier being held in a secure facility. His name was Corlan, and he had been part of the landing force in New York. He had surrendered after watching his entire unit cut down by human defenders. "He's traumatized," Lisa reported. "He keeps talking about how wrong everything went, how the briefings promised an easy victory. and instead he watched his friends die in conditions they couldn't handle. "Can we use him?" President Scott asked. "Maybe," Lisa said. "He's the first consortium soldier ever to surrender rather than fight to the death. That alone tells us something about their morale. They're not as invincible as they want everyone to believe." The galaxy held its breath. The consortium prepared for war. Earth prepared for survival. Resistance movements waited for their moment. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the future of galactic civilization hung in the balance. Ambassador Kyle Richardson concluded his secret meeting with the neutral species. They had not committed to anything concrete, but they had listened. They had taken humanity's tactical data. They had promised to consider their options. It was a start. President Scott looked at Earth from the window of the presidential office. The planet was scarred but healing. Cities were being rebuilt. The dead were being honored. And every day more volunteers signed up for. The second consortium fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system like a dark wave. 600 warships, the largest military force assembled in 1,000 years. They moved in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming power designed to break the human spirit before the first shot was fired. Admiral Victoria, Hayes commanded humanity's newly constructed fleet from the bridge of the battleship Liberty. She had 40 ships under her command, hastily built in orbital shipyards over the past 6 months. Each one was smaller than a consortium warship, but they were designed specifically for fighting in a solar system, using the sun's gravity and radiation as tactical advantages. "This is Admiral Hayes to all ships," she transmitted. "We know the odds. We know what we're facing. But remember, these same aliens thought they could take Earth with 80,000 troops. They learned different. Today we teach them another lesson." Captain Eric Stone led humanity's guerrilla space forces, a collection of small, fast ships that operated more like pirates than a formal navy. His vessels hid in asteroid fields and behind moons, waiting for opportunities to strike. "Patience," he reminded his captains. "Let them come deeper into the system. Let them get comfortable. Then we hit them where they don't expect it." The consortium fleet advanced slowly, scanning for traps. They had learned caution from their ground defeat, but their pride still drove them forward. At the front of the formation, personally commanding the invasion, was Warlord Vexnor. He had survived the destruction of his flagship, rescued from the wreckage by his subordinates. The experience had changed him. Before, he had seen humanity as amusing primitives. Now he saw them as an infection that needed to be burned out completely. "No quarter," he transmitted to his fleet. "No prisoners, no mercy. These creatures humiliated the consortium. They killed my soldiers. Today we will erase them from existence." The battle began at the orbit of Jupiter. Admiral Hayes divided her fleet into 3 groups, each one attacking from a different angle, forcing the consortium to split their formation. It was the same tactic that had worked on the ground, refusing to fight the way the enemy expected. Human ships darted in and out, firing and retreating, using the gas giant's gravity to slingshot around for additional attack runs. The consortium warships, built for deep space combat, struggled with the close-quarters maneuvering required to fight near a massive planet. Captain Stone's guerrilla forces emerged from the asteroid belt, hitting the consortium's rear elements. They targeted engines and weapon systems, crippling ships rather than trying to destroy them outright. A crippled ship was just as good as a destroyed one, and it required other ships to rescue or defend it. The battle was brutal and chaotic. For every consortium ship disabled, humanity lost 2. But the humans kept fighting with a ferocity that shocked the alien commanders. Ships that should have retreated kept attacking. Crews that should have surrendered fought to the last. On the consortium command ship, Vexnor watched the tactical display with growing frustration. "They're like insects," he snarled. "Kill 100 and 1,000 more appear." His tactical officer was more concerned with the mathematics. "Commander, at this rate of attrition we will win, but at severe cost. We've lost 40 ships already and we haven't even reached Earth orbit." "I don't care about cost," Vexnor snapped. "Continue the advance." Dr. Marcus Webb monitored the battle from Earth's surface, his hand hovering over the activation control for the solar lance. The weapon was ready, but it needed a perfect target. One shot properly placed could change everything. But if he fired too early or at the wrong target, the aliens would adapt. "Wait," Admiral Porter said beside him. Let them commit fully. Let them believe they're winning. The consortium fleet pushed past Jupiter, past the asteroid belt, into the inner solar system. They had lost 70 ships, but 600 minus 70 still left them with overwhelming numerical superiority. Vexnor ordered a direct assault on Earth's orbital defenses. That was when the trap closed. Captain Stone's forces had been seeding mines throughout the approach path, small explosive devices that were difficult to detect against the background radiation of the solar system. As the consortium fleet accelerated toward Earth, they ran into a wall of explosions. Shields flared and failed. Ships collided with each other, trying to avoid the minefield. The perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Admiral Hayes seized the moment and ordered a full assault. Human ships emerged from behind Earth's moon, from orbital stations, from positions in high orbit where they had been hiding. They struck at the disorganized consortium fleet with everything they had. Lieutenant Amy Chen, now commanding a squadron of space fighters, led her pilots through the battle. Remember your training. Fast and close. Make them afraid to fire in case they hit their own ships. Her tactics worked. The massive consortium warships were designed to engage enemies at long range with devastating firepower. At close range, surrounded by their own ships, they were hesitant to fire. The human fighters exploited this, darting between the capital ships, targeting vulnerable points. On board a damaged consortium destroyer, Commander Corlan watched his crew struggle to maintain control. He had been given command again after his recovery from captivity, but his experience on Earth had changed him. He had seen pride lead to disaster. Now he was watching it happen again on a larger scale. "Captain, we should withdraw," his tactical officer suggested. "We're losing ships faster than we're destroying them." Corlan studied the battle display. The human tactics were familiar now. Create chaos, exploit confusion, make every victory cost more than it was worth. And the longer the battle continued, the closer the fleet got to the sun, the more the solar radiation interfered with consortium systems. "All ships, this is Commander Corlan," he transmitted on an open channel. "I am withdrawing my vessel from combat. Any ship that wishes to follow may do so." It was mutiny, it was treason, but it was also survival. 3 other ships immediately broke formation and followed him away from the battle. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. Vexnor saw his fleet beginning to fragment. Rage overwhelmed his tactical judgment. "Traitors! All ships, destroy any vessel that retreats, and prepare the planet-killer weapons. If we cannot have this world, neither can they." The order was exactly what Dr. Webb had been waiting for. The consortium warships moved into a bombardment formation, positioning themselves to fire their most powerful weapons at Earth's surface. They were stationary, focused on a single target, shields aligned to protect against attacks from the planet. "Now," Admiral Porter said quietly. Marcus activated the solar lance, the satellite array around the sun synchronized and focused. A beam of pure solar energy, carrying more power than 100 nuclear weapons, lanced across the solar system in a brilliant line of light. It struck Vexnor's command ship dead center. The shields, impressive as they were, had been designed to stop conventional weapons. They had no defense against concentrated stellar radiation. The beam punched through the shields like they were paper, through the hull, through every deck and compartment, and out the other side. Vexnor died instantly, vaporized along with half his crew. The command ship broke apart, its reactors overloading, creating a secondary explosion that damaged 3 nearby vessels. Admiral Hayes did not waste the opportunity. "All ships, focus fire on their flagship cluster. Break their command structure." The battle turned from a fight into a rout. With Vexnor dead and the command ship destroyed, the consortium fleet fell into disarray. Some ships continued fighting. Others tried to retreat. Many simply stopped, their commanders uncertain what to do. Captain Stone's guerrilla forces and Admiral Hayes's battle fleet coordinated their attacks, systematically disabling or destroying any ship that continued to pose a threat. The solar lance fired twice more, each shot carefully placed to maximize strategic impact. Commander Corlan watched from a safe distance as the fleet he had once been proud to serve in came apart. He made a decision that would change his life forever. He transmitted on all channels using the human language he had learned during his captivity. "Attention human forces, this is Consortium Commander Corlan. I am requesting permission to surrender. I will not fire on my own people, but I will not fight against yours either. I believe this war is wrong, and I will not be part of it anymore." President Nathan Scott, monitoring the battle from Earth, made the decision personally. Grant him safe passage. If a consortium commander is willing to surrender, that's worth more than another destroyed ship. The battle lasted another 6 hours. When it finally ended, the consortium had lost 400 ships. The remaining 200 were either disabled, fleeing, or had surrendered. Humanity's fleet was nearly destroyed, with only 9 ships still combat capable. But they had won. On the consortium homeworld, High Arbiter Zelkin received the casualty reports with a feeling approaching despair. 2 invasions, 2 defeats, over 60% of their military destroyed or captured, and now reports were flooding in from across the Empire. Resistance movements on 12 worlds, 3 subjugated species in open rebellion, 5 neutral species forming a mutual defense pact. The Empire was fracturing. He called an emergency session of the High Council. "We must sue for peace," he announced. Immediately.